All right, we are live. So we are here at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Infrastructure Committee. And around the table, we have Councilor Pelletier, Councilor Sprague, Councilor Makubaga, Councilor Leonard, and Councilor Davitt. And we have one item on the agenda, but it's a fun one and it's sidewalk plowing. So Aaron,
Thanks for having me. Does anybody want printed versions? Would that be helpful? No?
I love them.
A little easier to see, I think, than the.
All right, so you made it look so good.
It is.
Use the big paper.
Just for the sake of having one. Thank you.
Wait, that means you don't have it.
No, I'm good. I have it all memorized.
He knows it's like. You want to show?
So Aaron Hootery, Public Works. What's that?
No, I.
Oh, no,
asked
no,
him if
I'm
he
all
wants to
good.
show.
You're good?
You're good,
Okay.
continue.
All right.
Yeah, I know it's there online.
Here to talk about sidewalk snow clearing, which 80+ degree day in October, not the greatest time, but last year, this time I was talking to you about what we were going to do about not being able to plow at all because we were short-staffed. In addition to that, we had really tough events last winter. We had wet snow and rain that immediately turned cold, turned into ice. We had one sidewalk machine that was down the entire winter waiting for parts. We had one machine tip over, and I think that made it onto social media. Just because of the ice, we had two other machines that got so tipped that they were almost ready to go over, had to get records made. And then we had one that got hit by a vehicle on Union Street and snapped the frame in half. So a challenging winter for sidewalk clearing last year all the way around. We met in August to talk about plan going forward for improving sidewalk plowing for students with the goal of aiding students that are required to walk to school. Put a lot of time into it, worked with our GIS department. I think these are much better maps than what we had before, and they delineate both sides of the sidewalk, so we get some better idea of what we're looking at. As you're looking at them, the red lines are priority ones, the blue are priority two. I've already forgotten my blue priority two. Light green means that there is a sidewalk there that is not plowed at all. And then the tan is the downtown district where business owners are responsible for clearing in front of their own businesses. So as I approached this, I kind of had some goals in mind. I was looking to convert priority two routes around the schools into priority ones, so they were serviced and cleared quicker. That was about 12 miles of routes that we had to change into priority ones. We also wanted to reduce priority ones that were outside the school districts down to priority two, so that we could focus, better focus on those priority ones. That proposed changes of 12.88 miles, 2 to 1. We had to add priority ones around schools. That was about 4.5 miles of additional routes that were within that walking distance of schools. We also want to make sure that we maintained major and minor arterials. Just because there's a lot of vehicle traffic doesn't mean that there's not a lot of pedestrian traffic. There is. So we were making sure that we maintain coverage there. Attempted to overlay the community connector bus stops and school bus stops. I think the list had 460 school bus stops, so there's a lot there. I don't think the community connectors are even finalized yet, so we still have more work to do there. And then because we added 4.5 miles, we were looking to see whether we could eliminate 4.5 miles and keep ourselves in that same rough amount. And then lastly, we had a goal of doing real-time routing. That's not going to happen this year, but I think that should be our ultimate goal. As a machine goes down, the routing system automatically recalculates and to get the most efficient work done with the time that we have and the equipment that's there. So staffing levels have improved. We do have one machine coming in this month in October. It's the sidewalk loader. We haven't used a loader before, but we have plow and snow blower attachments for that. So that should be in this month. And we would like to propose that we try out this pilot program that I've laid out here. And the third page of that kind of has a list of all those changes that I put on the map. So looking to provide safer access for students and other pedestrians. Make those changes from ones to twos to ones. Also, because we were looking at everything anyways, we took a look at downtown. Trying to, well, number one, consider that those are major arterials, you know what I mean, as people are moving through the city. But also some of the inefficiencies that we've dealt with in clearing downtown, the downtown district. Right now, we have little patches where we have to clear. We go up onto the sidewalk, which there aren't, on these patches, there aren't necessarily entrances, you know, curb cuts. So we have to go up over, clear that, and then we have to get back off. If we can't get back off now, we're trampling down snow in front of a business, creating more work for them as they try to get that off. So we're actually being very inefficient downtown, and just wanted to consider whether or not having them clear those downtown paths might create more efficiencies and more capability to do additional work instead of trying to work around those. There's a lot of factors that go into winter sidewalk snow clearing, and it's not a clear cut. Yes, we can do this. No, we can't do that. I think it's constantly changing, and you guys probably saw that last year. I'm pretty sure I received messages from multiple asking about the status of sidewalk snow clearing. And I know there was a week and a half, 2 weeks where we only had 1 out of 5 machines running in a time when we really needed all our machines running. So trying to meet the guidance that I got from all of you in August, and looking at how do we, the types of breakdowns we have, and how do we kind of keep things cleared. It's really a tough nugget to crack. And I think, you know, we had discussed 2 extra machines. If we did get a couple extra machines, when everything's running, we can have more staff in those, because that clearing takes place after the storm is done for the most part. So we're going to have more machines clearing sidewalks. And when machines go down, you still have more on the side, you know what I mean? Ideally, we would never get down to 1 machine again, once you add 2 more. It's not an insignificant cost. I did check to get updated pricing, and it's right at 200,000 for a sidewalk machine. So 400,000 for 2 of them. I wrote that there's no guarantee that we would be able to acquire the equipment. I started doing some checking around. There is one available that we could get in time, provided nobody takes it in between the time I checked. What we could have in service this winter. In lieu of the second one, we could not retire the one that's going away when the sidewalk loader comes in this month. That we haven't had issues with, other than the broken frame. We haven't had issues with it. It's a reliable machine. We could keep that on the road until the second new one comes in, and then retire that one at that time. So there are options there if council decided to go that way. So what we're proposing is that we go forward with the plan as laid out here, with the changes as laid out. In good conscience, I couldn't cut anywhere. This includes 4.5, a little over 4.5 miles of additional routes. That is more work, but there was no place that I could cut that didn't negatively impact someone. We did look at some dead, you said dead ends, you can take my street. But they're very small opportunities to do that.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't, I don't think I even would have gotten to the 0.58, you know, to cover that. So I think that we should go forward with this, understanding that's a pilot project, and that this should make an improvement, but at the same time, it will require some adjustments as we learn from it.
I have a quick title first. I have a question.
Chair.
What about I am very supportive of using some of our ARPA funds, and I've said this before, to purchase the extra machine. And even if, you know, we can buy one now and earmark money to buy another one when we need it. What about but one that's always come up in the last few years in budget is the ice melter machine. Are those available for this season if we wanted to get one of those?
So I have not looked at ice melters. I've looked at ice
or
chippers.
whatever the ice. thing is.
Yeah, but those aren't for widespread use. Those are, you have a downtown area that had icing, you know what I mean? And the salt just isn't taking care of it. You could put a chipper in to play, but they're not for widespread, you know what I mean?
Okay.
They're for spot responses.
Okay, that would be another one. Because I think that, you know, I mean, in my neighborhood, the sidewalks, when they do get cleared, by the time they get cleared, it's basically just
Clear
a
ice.
rink, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then people don't want to walk on the sidewalk because the roads have been salted and it's nice and clear. So anything that can also think about ice management as well. So that was just my question with that. Claire?
Thank you. Thanks, Erin, for all of this. I am, so the various things, I'll make a motion on the staff recommendation, but, I really appreciate the thought around the downtown business sidewalks and everything, and that we've basically just been creating more work for everyone the way we've been doing it. So thank you for bringing that forward. And then, yeah, working with DDP, I would imagine they'll be happy about this. So yeah, that sounds great. And then, as far as the machines, so, I mean, especially considering it's possible that neither would be available this season, I would think that either way we should order if that's what we're going to want, so that we know we're in line for them next year rather than just going through this.
Yeah, if I ordered now, I think we would have one by spring, but I don't think it makes sense to delay order if that's the direction the council
Yeah.
wanted to go.
I'd be supportive of ordering both machines if we can get one sooner. And then, yes, Councilor Shavers brought it up before as far as using ARPA funds, and I don't remember where things at all went with that, but I would be, it doesn't qualify.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't-
It does
qualify.
qualify.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Government service.
So maybe that's something we can bring to like the very next ARPA
It's
workshop.
on Wednesday.
And it's a capital.
Thank you, city
expense,
manager.
And I won't be here, but I'm supportive of it. You are.
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Councilor Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize how much time you put into this and I really appreciate it. I think, you know, I, as one of your repeat offenders of the email asking, why isn't my sidewalk cleared yet?
Not an offender. Happy to get it.
But it is something that is incredibly important to me. So for those who don't know, I live right around the corner from the Vine Street area and have seen a lot of kids walking to school in the middle of the road because the sidewalks aren't clear. So I appreciate even midstream last winter, you being willing to sort of shift direction on Lincoln Street to make sure that we could get kids safely to and from school. I think this represents a great step forward. I'm also in full support of giving you whatever equipment you need to make this easier and faster for your team, because it makes the difference between a livable, walkable city in the winter and one where people feel like they're stuck inside and people can't walk their dogs, and it's challenging for people with mobility issues. So in full support of that. The request that I would have in addition is that we do a good job with communicating out to folks reminders that you're not allowed to plow snow into the sidewalk because it freezes and it makes your job a lot harder. And that we even consider increasing the fine for that after a warning, so that people know that you can't do it, because it not only is it against ordinance, but it makes your job difficult and lengthy and causes breakdowns in equipment. So, and if we get through the next couple of years with this as a trial run and we're still feeling like we can't clear the sidewalks fast enough, I do think it's worth the council's time to consider whether we implement an ordinance like they have in Portland, where homeowners are required to clear the sidewalk in front of their house. I know we don't want to do that because there's lots of folks with mobility issues or who are older or just can't clear their sidewalks, but we have to have a livable and walkable and accessible city year round. So willing to take this as a first step and super excited to see it.
Good, thank you. And I intended to have a discussion with the city manager about just the enforcement of that. That slows down the sidewalk machines incredibly to try to grind through those big piles that get left on the sidewalk. So my intention was to be proactive with communicating with residents. And if
We put a
that
sticker.
results in fines, then we currently put signs up on posts saying, you know, this is a violation of ordinance. or we'll
Shaming
hang-
signs.
Yeah,
Just trying to communicate.
I think that, and after this, I see. Councilor. enforcing that, making it an enforced ordinance. And even if even if we do some PR like, hey, this year it counts. So if you get a warning, you'll get one warning and then you're gonna get enforced. So you can let your plow guy know, or you can let the kid who's shoveling your driveway know. We actually have to keep it out of the sidewalk, because I have run into those sidewalk mountains myself. So I am in full support of making that an ordinance that we actually enforce. And I feel like we have had success in that in other areas in the department. Sorry, you're the one that keeps enforcing the ordinances. But like it has worked with, I think it's worked fairly well with
Trash.
trash. So
Mhm.
Councilor Leonard.
I just have a really quick comment. So I feel very optimistic about this plan that you brought forward. The only thing I do want to say is once the winter season is over, especially if we're going to consider potentially new ordinances around snow plowing, I think it would be very important for us to establish a after action evaluation of this winter and try to bring as many of the citizens as possible who have points or criticisms or positives that they want to bring with this pilot program to light, so that we can use that information to help us develop any future ordinances around this. So that's my only comment I want to say.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Sprague.
Yeah, I think this is, I'm not on the committee, but this is, I think, a good plan. I'm very supportive of this. And of acquiring the additional equipment. I think we said that back in August, that we felt favorably about doing that. So I'd get that as soon as possible. And I think we've got a majority of the council right here.
Right here.
You know, so,
Support.
you know, I think you could be pretty confident. I think Councilor Schaefer raises an interesting and very good point. And I don't know how we look at this at all, but just because things are plowed doesn't mean they're used. And oftentimes the sidewalks, even when they're plowed, get very icy, and you see a lot of people just walking in the street because of it. It's very apparent to people when the sidewalks aren't plowed. They want them plowed. And they feel better when they're plowed, but when they're plowed, then they're icy, and then, you know, people are out in the street anyway. And I don't know how we, balance that off. But this is a huge amount of plowing and an awful lot of work, and, we'll still end up with people who will be walking to the street. And there's no way around that. But I think best effort is to do it right. And then I think, as you said, in next year's budget and the year after, going to the software, which allows you to reallocate based on when the equipment is operational, I think makes a great deal of sense as the next step. So thanks for the work on that.
And I would add, I do think that some of the reason why the sidewalks get so iced over is because they don't get plowed fast enough. And so having more rapid response on the plowing might actually make for nicer sidewalks as well. Or it's because you're plowing the neighbor's snowbank a mile down the street because it was blocking to start.
Realistically, roads stay clear because we push back snow so much. Sidewalks, we don't. So you get the melt from the edges that comes in and it freezes at night. And it's the close proximity, but that's a problem we'll continue to work on.
I think it's worth mentioning to people again, and reminding them that there is sand available at Public Works. Because I know we have a lot of folks in our neighborhood, us included, who shovel our sidewalks and then try to get the sand out too. So as we're reminding people about, don't plow the snow into the sidewalk. Perhaps we can also remind them about free sand. Take as much as you can.
Isn't it putting the mattresses in the sidewalks to the more?
That's another piece too. Yeah, garbage bags and
I think
clothes.
Council Pelletier raised the issue of, people doing their own sidewalks. And I think there's more that could be done by just encouraging people to be good neighbors. And that, if they have their snow blower, plowing one more width of sidewalk rather than their own. I'm very fortunate to have great neighbors on both sides of me who like snow blower and sidewalk, and it's great. Everybody doesn't have that, but just people voluntarily doing one more house or helping their neighbors out, and maybe as part of an overall promotion of what we're trying to do to improve sidewalks we throw that in as if it's a suggestion for people. And I think there are a number of people who might just do that.
Yeah, call it the Good Neighbor Program.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
But if I could just add, I think the idea of naming the snowplows and working with
Yes.
kids in the schools to name the snowplows and do the yard is a great idea, whether you thought of it or somebody else. I think it is a really nice thing to do.
Thank
And I think it will go over very well.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what they put forward and sharing them with all of you.
I have one last question, because you mentioned it at the start. How is staffing looking for our winter?
Staffing is actually, it just.
Thank you.
Staffing is looking good. We are currently down 6 positions. But last year I was down 14 at this point, so, and these people have been on, so they know how we operate, you know, and it's not a bunch of people coming in at the end of October, which we had last year, October, November, and trying to learn how we operate and trying to learn how to operate the truck. And, you know, there was just so many difficulties last year. I really got some great team members right now, so I'm very optimistic about the winter.
Great. So I mean, I think the direction is to order the equipment. This is an easy ARPA spend for me. And I think for most people around the table, because it hits every neighborhood, it doesn't hit. We don't want anything to get hit, but it touches every neighborhood.
Yeah.
It touches most residents because they either went to the schools, have a kid in the school, or had a kid in the school. And I think that they see that just like Councilor Pelletier does, just like we do when we're traveling around. So it's capital expense, and if the more machines, if it makes it better to have more machines, well, we should do it. All right,
Appreciate.
you need a
the support.
motion?
Do we need a motion on the overarching?
I don't.
No.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah, yeah. And if I need to do a memo for ARPA, then I'll have that ready to go. No, okay. All right, then I'm all set.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And that is our only item, so we are adjourned.
Aaron?